Kristin and we're in my studio in Dumbo, Brooklyn. My earliest memory was being, I think I was like 2 or 3, and I was finger painting, and I remember having like red on this hand and blue on this hand. I was like smearing it around. I was like, look, Mom, look what I made. Painting really became like my passion in college, and that's what I majored in, and then I went to grad school for painting as well. So yeah, just like from the beginning up until now, like painting has been my one consistent like passion that I just couldn't go a day without doing. I remember my dad saying, like, you know, it's okay that you want to be an artist, but make sure you have a plan in case it doesn't work. And I said, okay, I'll join the circus if it doesn't work. And their reaction was like, okay, you can be an artist, it's fine. I've been just painting in here as much as possible. I work in the afternoons as a nanny, which is living the New York dream. For me, I needed something totally separate from painting. I know some people like to stay in the art field for their job, but during the day working, like I just want that to be work, and I don't want to think about my paintings then necessarily, or like mix those two. So it's allowed me to just keep things separate. So when I'm in the studio, I'm just very much in the studio. This building used to be a convent for the church that's next door, and they renovated it and they rent it out, not necessarily as art studios. We're, I think, the only artists in the building, but other people have their small businesses here and they use it as an office space. I was trying to paint things that were very much a part of my feminine self and feminine upbringing, and just be unapologetically feminine with my work. During a critique, my work wasn't in this critique, it was for the year ahead of us. One of the senior critics, who's a male at the school that I was at, he said to a female student, oh, like once he saw what painting was hers, oh, I didn't realize a woman would paint something like that. And I was like, oh, like, should I be ashamed that you can tell a woman paints in my work? And I realized, like, it took hearing that to realize that I think I was scared of not being taken seriously if I painted these overtly feminine images. And so from then on, I was like, you know what, forget it. Like, I'm just gonna do it, and you have to take me seriously. And so the first thing I did, I was like squishing out like all the pink paint I had, and I was like, this is what's happening now, and you're gonna like it. Makeup was something that I've just always loved, has been in my family that we've always loved. I grew up with, I have 2 sisters that are younger, and my mom and my grandma were both very much involved in our upbringing, and they, like, I just remember, I have all these memories of like sitting in the car, like getting ready to get out and go somewhere, and everyone's like, well, my mom's like, wait, I have to put on my lipstick. And my grandma was the same way, so it was like very like almost ritualistic, and but I loved it, and so I started making these images kind of like in a nostalgic way. I'm like, this is something like I really loved, but then I also was dealing with like, I guess in the programs that I was in, it was sort of questioned, like, well, can you be feminine in this way but still be like an academic? And so it was me kind of like grappling with getting people to see me like as a multifaceted woman, which I think is really hard, because you, like, as a woman, you're pressured to either be like you're one thing or the other. There's not room for like a well-rounded like personality or character or whatever. And it's assumed that if you're into like pretty things or girly things that like she probably doesn't read books or, you know, whatever. So I was very much grappling with that, and like was also very fascinated by all the like the grittiness of it. So like the ugliness of it in a bunch of different ways, because I think pretty and ugly have a very symbiotic relationship. Like whenever I come home from a crazy night out or whatever, my favorite thing is looking at like how destroyed my face looks in the mirror. Like your mascara's down here and lipstick's up here, and that's very much a part of that whole thing. After I was finished with grad school, I suddenly had all this time. and I felt like I needed more like movement in my life. It was always very much a part of my upbringing. I was a gymnast for years, and so I was just very fascinated by what bodies can do, and I was very thankful. Like I was always had this just like such thankfulness for my body and appreciation for it and what it can do, and so I needed more of that in my life, but I was just like sitting in a studio all the time. So I started taking pole dance classes, which I had always wanted to try, and so I finally did it, and I was seeing like the same themes in the pole dance world. How like when a pole dancer is on stage, you just see her as this beautiful, like ethereal, like really not even a person, just like this being twirling around and like doing all these cool pretty tricks. But then like during the practice, it is so hard and it's extremely painful. Like what holds you onto the pole is your skin. In your first few classes you learn a pole sit, so you're like you have your legs around the pole, and then you like can lean back, you do all these poses. But yeah, like I remember looking at my leg and my skin was like all bumpy and wrinkly, and I was like, oh my god, why do I look like that? And then my painter brain like kicks in. I was like, wait a second, this is really cool. And like look at how weird like your body looks and how skin, like what this makes skin do when you look really closely. But like when you're in a strip club or like watching someone pole dance, you're never gonna see that because the lights are low and they're moving too fast. But like I was starting to look at the things that you don't normally see in a performance, and then I would leave classes with all these bruises, and like I had this gigantic one on my thigh at one point, and I was enamored with it because I kept like watching the colors change, and like as a painter that became really fascinating. So then I started collecting them, and yeah, so it became very much a study in something that is ugly, but in a pole aerial world is very much worn as a badge of pride. Usually means like you learned a new trick. So I was super fascinated by that because like as a woman, if there's a bruise on your body, it says something. But in this case, like all these women are so proud of it and so proud of their bodies for what they've done that like I just became enamored with that idea. Like it, instead of being a source of shame or something, it became like about pride and like being proud of your body and what it can do. I take photos first. I work from photographs, and so I start painting from those, and I do that for a little while to kind of get the like the color palette and understand like how the color relationships are working, whether it's like pink lipstick next to whatever skin tone, or like the purple of a bruise next to the rest of the skin. And so I try to find the relationships first, and then after a while the photograph kind of goes away, and then I look at the painting like as painting and like paint a little bit and like walk back and see what it needs. So then it becomes its own thing instead of just like a copy of a photograph. Currently I have gigantic bruise paintings that are hanging in Body and Pole, which is the studio that I go to train. They have like a whole opening and everything. One of their pole teachers is also an art history professor, and so she tries to get like different artists up on the wall, and so they have a whole opening when they have a new person in. Like it's like the best art opening ever. There's like pole dancers and aerialists, and it's a big party. It's wonderful. I think we just pressure women in general to not, like we don't allow them to be multifaceted people. And yeah, so there's no room for you to like lipstick and then also like academia. Like I felt like, oh, is my work not serious artwork if I paint with like all pink palette, or if I paint glitter or whatever? But of course you can, but like you have, I don't know, we have to make space for that. Like we have to do it very intentionally and do it very loudly to be seen and heard, but also be taken seriously. Like you have to command that respect in a way that like maybe men don't have to. I feel like in a lot of ways women are being told to sit down, be quiet, we don't want to hear from you right now. But everyone needs to know that that's not gonna happen.